Feel the power.
Oh, I can feel it.
Our moment of triumph approaches. It's
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
All right, welcome back to GrokTALK. It is segment 4, the last 30 minutes of the program. We are happy to be here as a result of the efforts of many people, but most importantly, Mr. Murphy, who started a website and has a bunch of equipment, and we stuck it in this room at CNHT, and now we're here almost every week. We will not be here the Saturday after Thanksgiving or the Saturday after Christmas, but this is show 75. We've been at it for a little while now. Yay, show 75.
And we thank Steve for having the energy to get it rejuvenated, and it's been doing great ever since.
I still have it. I mean, every now and then in the middle of the week, I'm like, all right, let's go.
Right. So what I am holding up here, since our commercial says gun-toting, there are going to be more gun-toting Californians, especially in San Diego, as a result of this newspaper article, which I brought.
And not just Democrats who are selling guns illegally.
No, like Leland
Lee
or whatever his
name was.
Yeah,
Leland Wu Wee.
yeah. So
Lee.
Yeah,
Leland Lee.
So what happened is that Leyland Yee, that's what it was. What happened is that there was an appeal.
Yee of Little Leyland. Sorry.
Yes.
Here we go.
It's the squirrel segment. Here we go.
The citizens appealed the repeated rulings of sheriffs and police chiefs that effectively turned concealed carry permitting into may issue, and very rarely may issue, and especially in the city of San Diego, where there are lots of Mexicans. So, racist me, yeah, okay.
Who should be just as allowed law-abiding, gun-toting citizens as anybody else, assuming they are citizens.
Assuming they are citizens and not illegal aliens.
Correct.
Absolutely.
We'd like you to take the test, go through the steps, then go on, get your gun
and
permit,
so there was a
whatever.
court fight, and then there was an appeal by the Brady Bunch and other similar types that oppose anybody having guns, and the appeal lost, which means that as of now, 2 courts in succession have ruled that the police chief shall issue unless there's a serious impediment. So California is moving towards shall issue, which is a great step forward, and we wish them luck in upholding that and getting it finally confirmed. It may go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, several of my coworkers have expressed glee over this. They will be going,
and a couple of mine.
Yeah, they will be going to get their concealed carry permits. Mostly because they need it as an equalizer. Several of them are getting up in age. If some strapping young person came through, be it male or female, they want to be able to protect themselves. And really
unarmed. That's what a lot of people forget. You have like moms demand action. Who, I mean, maybe if they were getting more action, they wouldn't be wasting so much time trying to steal our gun rights. But
I'm going to hear more male.
You have to. It's Steve at GrokTALK. Steve at GraniteGrok.com. Anyway,
Feminazis,
you have
send your hate mail to Steve.
People who they already do. If you, I don't care. You're not going to change me. Sorry. Anyway, if you don't realize that it is an equalizer, that you have people who are getting older, and in England where they've banned guns for a long time, larger, stronger, younger people beat up older people and take their stuff, and they can't do anything about it, because even if you give an old person a stick, the young person with the bigger stick is going to take their stick and then their stuff. So you have to have a way to allow law-abiding citizens to protect their own bodies, their own property, and that's what this does in their lives. Yeah.
I mean, I used to do a lot of martial arts when I was young. I could stand 6 inches from you and side by side and put my right foot into your ear. I can't do that. I haven't been able to do it for a long, long time because it's just not there. And even if I could, it'd probably be once, and then I'd be groaning. You'd
hurt your back, and you'd be in that chair.
Yeah, that's the gravity chair. That's correct. But I take the responsibility of the self-responsibility of protecting me and mine. And the problem is that you're right. It's always seemingly government acting against the detriment of the law-abiding, caging us in more and more and more with restrictions, when those that don't care about the law, look at our current president with his executive actions about to happen, if you don't care about the law, then no law is going to apply. And it seems to be that progressives and liberals don't ever want to acknowledge that. And yet we see the violent crime rates going way down year after year as gun ownership has soared. Every time we hear if you do that, you'll see rivers of bloods in the street, and actually the crime rates go down, except in those places where gun control is at its highest. And then it's not really a gun control problem, like in Chicago, it's a gang problem. And as we were talking about with our previous guest, Jonathan Last, it really is a morality, a lack of virtue problem. But that's where the progressives can't accept, because they are complicit with the fact that I see as an evangelical Christian the lack of morality that has been pushed by the progressives, saying you only need government as your God, as your daddy, as your hubby. Government will take care of everything. You just outsource your responsibility to us and your morality.
Morality is an attribute of the individual, too, and the individual scares the statists. Their biggest enemy, their biggest kryptonite is individual responsibility, which morality is in that sphere.
Individuals with virtue. And, there was that book that I mentioned a couple of times last year that, morality and virtue should be local and personal things, not government things. The problem with liberals who actually have no morality in the conventional sense, they believe that morality is something that's enforced from the top down, that their idea of what is a good thing or good behavior should be enforced by government, whereas individuals with a moral upbringing do the right thing and don't need government.
Morality can't even be an issue between you and I at this table. It has to be with you and with me.
Internalized.
Yeah, it is. It's an individual thing.
Well, the First Amendment exists to allow you to have your morality without the government telling you what it should be.
But that's not what's happening right now.
Of course not.
And that's one of the questions that I asked Bill O'Brien. It'll be soon posted up on GrokTALK.com. And we see the right of conscience, the free expression of religion in the First Amendment under attack through the non-discriminatory policies or ordinances all over. It basically says your freedom to any kind of sexual expression that you want to do in a lot of cases. In this case, the gay militant folks want to suppress the religious freedom because there is that freedom from anything versus the freedom that comes from understanding you are not the superior being. And I think that's, it is that internal moralization that we hold dear that is anathema to the progressives and anybody who's jumped onto that bandwagon. Mm-hmm. So, hey, Jonathan, hope you're still listening. Call in. Said Ed. On
a landline, please.
Yes. We have Ed Lasky, our flasher. Anybody wants to call in, join the conversation?
603-715-9689. 603-715-9689. In the second half of this segment, we're going to play the Bill O'Brien's top 3 priorities as Speaker, and then we'll talk about those issues. We still have a few more minutes to fill. Prior to that, we did touch on Grubergate. We've talked about Sununu. I had a Scott Walker soundbite that I had queued up. I don't know if I still do. Let me go see if I do. And I don't think I do.
And he's one of the conservative heroes. Not only has he dialed back unionism in his state, made it voluntary to pay union dues, and to the surprise of the unions, thousands of members decided that perhaps they didn't want to.
Well, my point about him was that he said something that we've been talking about since the election, and I'm scrolling down to it because I got so much video.
And he's won 3 times in 4 years because these Democrats insisted on making him fight for re-election, and he was re-elected.
Yes, he was. Well, he's talking about leadership. He's telling Republicans, get out there and lead. Don't worry about us. We talk about the infighting in the Republican Party. All we're asking them to do is lead by their platform. That's really it. It's your platform. It's your freaking platform. Why can't you just take your platform and go, this is our agenda. This is how we want you to engage with government as little as possible in one respect, but get out there and lead.
Yeah. I did a post on him, and he basically said, when he got his new Republican majority, if we only act less worse than the Democrats, the voters will throw us out. And think about that. Less worse than the Democrats. And that's what we hear an awful lot of times from Republicans for the sake of the Republican Party. We're better because we're not Democrats. Those two things are the same thing, which basically mean there's no difference between us. And I think that's one of the things why I was so upset with having Walt Havenstein run instead of Andrew Hemingway. Havenstein won on being a better manager. Well, there's lots of better managers out there.
Mussolini was a better manager.
And Andrew Hemingway offered a vision in that his primary thing was not so much I can manage better than anybody else, but here is an ideal, more individual liberty and freedom, the ability to choose for yourself. That is where we should go. So he had an endpoint of where he would want to take the state of New Hampshire, whereas you hear from almost most Republicans that are establishment, we can just do it better than the Democrats, period.
I am going to queue up. I'm working on queuing up the part of this segment with Scott Walker in it where Rush Limbaugh, here it is. Hang on a second. Let me just back up. But talks about how Scott Walker is he's the man,
That was the book I was referring to, Freedom National.
All right, here we go.
Virtue Locally,
the
or
Republican
Socialism.
Party has a genuine star. The Republican Party has a demonstrated genuine hero and potential star in its ranks, and he is the governor of Wisconsin. His name is Scott Walker. Every American labor union, every American labor union thug, a rigged judiciary, a rigged media, the Democrat Party has thrown everything they've got at Scott Walker, and he has beat them back without one syllable of complaint, without 1 ounce of whining. All he has done is win.
Joining me now, the man himself, Governor Scott Walker.
That was pretty. And that's just it. Yeah.
He ran on Republican principles.
He did.
A very deaf political voice. He knew what to say, unlike sometimes what we do. He said it in a way that was attractive to not just Republicans, but the independents, the ordinary American citizen, and said, here's the Republican ideals. In this case, we want more individual freedom for you in this area. And people leapt on it. We've reported several times on Granite Grok how little the unions are left with when given the choice. Again, choice, the absolute quantitative idea of what freedom really is. How many choices do I have? When given the choice, people said, I'd rather do it myself.
Yeah, and people don't, it's like suppressed knowledge that all these people are leaving the unions and not paying dues because they've given the option of not having to pay them.
Yeah, and I would say that in Skip's universe of people that Scott Walker appealed to, that included the rank-and-file union member, a lot of rank-and-file teachers that essentially were only in the union because they were forced to be and were very happy to walk away from it. Tom.
And Scott, Walker is the poster child for what the GOP should be doing, is consistent message. Stay with it. Don't kowtow. Don't placate. What did Reagan say? Pale pastels versus bold colors. So he's a bold color, and many of the GOP are choosing to be pale pastels
or pale browns.
Yeah. Oh man, where's my cymbal and my drum set? That was a good one.
But I actually used that in the last couple of months.
Did you?
Pale browns versus bold colors.
There
yes.
you go. And if the establishment Republicans would stop being afraid of being considered radical and went the Scott Walker model, they would be so much more successful. We'd have a different country.
We would. We're going to take a quick break, about 40 seconds. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
All right. A little different. I know you like that. I know you like that rock organ.
I love it.
So, this one's for Skip. Welcome back to GrokTALK. We are talking about stuff and junk and things. And I want to play for you in a second, as soon as I fade this out. A little bit of our last question to Bill O'Brien, which will be going up tomorrow-ish. Tomorrow-ish, because we've got a few more. There were quite a few questions
Only
there.
half are up so far.
Only half. So if you've been going to GraniteRock.com, go and see the Bill O'Brien. You can also go to YouTube. Go to Granite Rock on YouTube. All the questions we asked him about his priorities as speaker.
Just the ones that I've published so far.
Just the ones.
Everything's
right.
up, just not viewable.
They will all be there. Here is the... Well, we won't play the whole thing because it's kind of long, but we'll start. Here we go.
Top 3 priorities if you are elected speaker for the legislators to be herded in like cats. What is it you would want to... Oh, we've got to laugh a little bit here, folks. We've been pretty serious.
A herd of cats, it's okay.
Yes. What are the top 3 things you would like to accomplish?
I'd certainly like to improve our election laws and bring as much integrity as I can to them. One of the things we have going for us, if Bill Gardner stays as Secretary of State, is for once he's acknowledging there is a problem. We've gone through years with him since I first met him back in 2004, where he's saying, well, no, there isn't a problem, and quite frankly, all these laws now that we see, that he thinks there's a problem, they've all come forward with the preface at the beginning of every debate, Bill Gardner approves of this. And so now that he doesn't generally approve, we can use that to start to tighten things up. So that's an area of priority. Reducing the drivers of business cost in New Hampshire is very, very important to me. Now, that's the budget, and that means we have to get taxes down. And as Mel Thompson told us, every budget has 2 sides of the equation. As he phrased it, is low taxes are a result of low spending. We've got to reduce our spending in order to get our business taxes so that they aren't the 3rd highest in the country. In addition, we have to reduce our workers' compensation costs. They're out of control because over the last 20, 25 years since the last reform, that we've added to the costs and the duplicative procedures, and it's just an expensive system now. We have to reduce our energy costs, another driver of business costs. We have to reduce regulations such as licensing and other regulations. So that's kind of a secondary, reduced business costs. It all comes within that, and it's all kind of multi-faceted effort. And you know, there's actually 4 areas. I'm sorry, there's not 3, but one of the areas is a public employee pension plan. We've talked about that. You know, whether it's $4.5 billion unfunded, or as State Budget Solutions says, assuming longer life expectancies and lower return on investment, $13 to $14 billion underfunded. Horrible amount. I mean, horrible. It's like $100,000 per citizen in New Hampshire. We have to stop the insanity, which means at least move new participants, new employees, into a defined contribution plan and see how far we can go. We can go quite far, I think, there. So public and the 4th is to deal with Obamacare and Medicaid expansion. That bill is like that law is a time bomb in the wallets of New Hampshire citizens. It's going to blow at some point unless we take it out of those wallets, unless we get rid of it.
Okay, so all good points. Quite a few things, but those are the priorities. So we talk about these all the time: business, regulation, energy. What else? Where do we want to go?
I mean, there's a lot of things that, as a conservative, I would like to see. Basically, it comes back to what Governor Rick Perry said when he did at the kickoff of his presidential campaign last cycle, and his phrase has always stayed with me. My job is to make Washington, D.C. as inconsequential in your daily life as possible. And I really... progressives will just shriek in horror over this, but frankly, most of us don't need as much government hand-holding as what they think we should do. We are not Julias that have to be led by the hand or pulled by the hair in some cases, because that's what government will do to you if you don't follow their diktats. We can do this stuff by ourselves, and I think what we saw last time, and what he has said that he will do
This
again.
last time Bill was Speaker.
Was to devolve power from Concord that progressives and big government Republicans have pulled into Concord. He wants to send it back out. That, to me, can only be a good thing, because really government is only supposed to do a few things. Do it very well, but we don't see that it does things very well.
And passing laws should be a rarity, not a daily occurrence to micromanage our lives. If you had laws that worked in the 19th century, how many more laws do you need now?
That's the problem. I mean, there is that growing meme that we can go through our daily lives, and every single day we could, if a prosecutor wanted to, be arrested for several different crimes. Some of them misdemeanors, some of them are felonies, because we don't know. The purpose of the law is to be knowable, understandable, and it serves as a goalpost, don't go here. And instead, like I said earlier with Jonathan Last, our guest, it has become steel bars thrown around us. If you can get through the bars, you're fine, because then there's no governing authority, like Al Gore said. But in the meantime, it's supposed to trap us in, and that's not what freedom is, folks. We are supposed to be the land of the free. That's why we fought our wars, and I don't see it anymore.
Well, I think definitely Bill O'Brien has demonstrated an ability to undo some of the nonsense and the craziness. A couple days ago, I posted a quote from a guy named Jack Gordon from a piece called "Violence is Golden," and this is not unique or original, but armed men prepared to do violence. A rule not ultimately backed by the threat of violence is merely a suggestion. States rely on laws enforced by men ready to do violence against lawbreakers. Every tax, every code, and every licensing requirement demands an escalating progression of penalties that, in the end, must result in the forcible seizure of property or imprisonment by armed men prepared to do violence in the event of resistance or non-compliance. Every time a soccer mom stands up and demands harsher penalties for drunk driving or selling cigarettes to minors or owning a pit bull or not recycling, she is petitioning the state to use force to impose her will. She is no longer asking nicely. Bill has demonstrated that this craziness that we have these laws that people don't even know what they are, that are randomly enforced based on a desire to do harm to individuals for political reasons or personal reasons. In towns, you see it all the time. You know, in Henniker, Stephen Forrester has this tree farm, and you know, according to the state, he can have weddings there if he wants. But the town didn't want that, so they. You know, I mean, all right, local control, great, but there's a state law that allows him to do it already. Now, if there's a problem with the law, let's go talk about that law and then return that control locally and let the voters battle it out. But in this particular case, he was already protected from local tyranny by a state law that actually made sense. It gave him the ability to use his own property for things he wanted to use it for. And these locals came in and they're nope, and it cost him a bloody fortune fighting this thing.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes Americans think that tyranny is when an invading army would come in, and that's their only definition. Dan Itza, I think, has a great tagline to his email signatures. Tyranny does not come just at the point of a barrel, but by the end of a barrel, but of a gun, but by the point of a pen. At what point have we crossed that Rubicon to become a tyrannical government simply by those who believe they know better than us passing a law that says this is how you will run your life?
Soccer moms demand action.
Well,
I would take it back probably as far as Eisenhower. I think Eisenhower was a Republican, wasn't he?
Yes.
He said that he was, yes.
Moderate Republican.
No, well, that's my point. That's when you had your Rockefeller Republicans. That's when you had your 1.5 party state begun. You could go
all the way back to Teddy Roosevelt for that.
You can go back to Teddy Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson.
I mean, the Progressive Party.
For the Progressive and Bull Moose parties, for the origins of the gradual creeping...
The John Sununu's of their age.
I was going to say, it all leads to John Sununu, doesn't
it? The creeping state. But if we look at the more modern...
Who's madly scribbling our names going, I'm going to erase them, you know.
But if
strike us down and we will return twice as powerful.
Zap.
The gnome has the spear, though.
Yeah.
I don't have the squirrel thing. You're just going to have to go.
The reason I mentioned Eisenhower is because that was your Rockefeller Republican era, and again since then, Republicans have failed to stand up against creeping tyranny.
And the thing I like about Bill is that he will stand up to that creeping tyranny. He'll push it back, but he's also going to be focused on business, which, you know, all our liberties and all this, lack of tyranny is great. But if we don't have jobs, and if our economy is falling apart, it's not quite the same. You need to have a healthy economy, a healthy, vibrant economy for it to be alive.
And you need to have a healthy, vibrant state economy without the people having to cross the border into Massachusetts to work.
Oh, yeah.
In order for New Hampshire to have a credible freedom from its surrounding states and from the federal government.
Right.
If we're dependent on others, we're not free.
Right.
Yeah, everybody walks past the corpse on their way out the door. They don't stop and stay there. It's just we need to have cheaper energy prices. We need to have fewer licensing issues.
Well, the corpse is right there on the way out of state. It's called Seabrook. Oh, you're talking about energy prices.
Right.
Well, yeah, they keep closing energy plants. So we talked to Susan about that, and she's obviously a great resource. You should go to GrokTALK.com and see if she's written anything about it. You should. A
bold color move would be to try to. Well, I think deregulating the PUC is probably. We talked a little bit about that in the interviews with Bill. A bold move would be to try to bring one of the new generation nuclear plants into New Hampshire. We could feed our energy needs very cheaply for decades and decades.
It's still we're still a net exporter of electricity, and we still get screwed on these damn things.
I can't figure out how that is because
it's just the way that it's the markets we've been signed up in. I mean, we're tied into the Northeast, and the agreements that have been made are not to the advantage of New Hampshire.
Right.
We should have cheap energy and be selling it to them, and using that to keep our prices lower, not what they're doing to us now.
And the mandates through regulation that are on. The energy companies.
Well, Bill said the renewable standard needs to go. Obviously, it does because we already get between Seabrook and hydro. We already have it's like 40 to 60% of our power is technically green.
And we have geothermal too. We do have a significant geothermal percentage.
We do
in this state. Most people don't realize that.
Where is that, Tom? I'm curious.
I don't remember exactly where, but we can look that up.
Well, you got granite, you got volcanic activity, maybe far below, but you got it.
Yep. Now, this geothermal, I think it's more towards the Portsmouth area in that section of the state.
Fabulous.
I can bring more information on that. But I did some research a couple of years ago looking at energy costs, and I was surprised to find that.
Surprised indeed that the segment has ended, and we have completed another episode of GrokTALK.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay. All right. Giddy up. We're done.
Go Bill.
All right, anyway, thanks for tuning in. This is it's time to go. We'll be back next week with more guests and more GrokTALK.
Yeah, baby!
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
"There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change."
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All of the music on this program comes to us through Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of CNHT, GrokTALK.com, or anyone else for that matter.
GrokTALK.